Bitcoin is at a critical crossroads right now, ladies and gents. We've got this, sort of short to mid-term support level at about 107, 108. It's actually resistance now because we fell below it. And if we take a look at where Bitcoin is right now as we speak, it is currently finding resistance at that same level right now. Now, this is so important, ladies and gents. Look at how clearly Bitcoin, originally bounced off this level and then subsequently came back and cannot get above it. This is so huge for us to be taking a look at today, because the fact that Bitcoin has hit this level but did not produce an instant drop, right? The fact that Bitcoin didn't do something that looks, let's say, a little bit like this, I think is absolutely huge, right? The fact that Bitcoin didn't do that, basically, because that tells us just right off the bat that we're not necessarily getting harsh rejections off this particular level, and that actually we're holding on pretty well. Now, we know why we're holding on. We know that it's the S&P 500. We know that it's not Bitcoin, and those of you that have been subscribed to this channel are going to be very intimately familiar with these concepts at this point, because we talk about them in pretty much every single video and live stream because they're so relevant. It's why we've been able to stay so accurate with our analysis throughout this period in the market here. And I'm going to cover that with you guys in just a second, because I really want to demystify everything that we're seeing here and make sure that you understand it thoroughly as well. Because once you understand this stuff, you're going to have a different level of confidence in this game. It's going to be fantastic. But the first thing, like I said, is just taking a look at this resistance level. And I just want to, understand it with you guys here for a second. I mean, we did get some pretty serious bounces coming off this level, at the end of August, early September here, and another big bounce coming off this massive liquidation hunt here. Again, this wick went much lower depending on which exchange you were on, but the spot exchanges did typically manage to hold at about 107. So a very important level. I mean, tons of price action happening at this level, just going back to kind of May, June of this year. And then if we take a look even earlier, this is kind of where we were finding resistance when we initially topped at about 108. So again, just a very historically kind of charged price level. It's definitely one of the more important price levels we've got on this chart, and we're not doing too bad with it right now. One of the things that I think I'm seeing a lot of strength in is Bitcoin's dominance, right? I mean, Bitcoin dominance managed to move all the way up to about 60% again, and it's now dropped back down toward the low 59s, the mid 59s, and I think that's another kind of strong sign that actually there's a lot of speculation taking place in altcoins right now. I mean, here's Ethereum, again, largely unbothered, right? I mean, if you just kind of literally imagine that this whole thing didn't happen, then Ethereum's just been range bound. And absolutely nothing happened. The only thing that happened is that there was a washout. Now, there was another kind of leverage wipeout, and that's obviously how crypto ended up coming back down into, like the 104, even the 103s over here. But again, that drop wasn't crypto. That was the S&P 500. So let me just go ahead and show that to you guys. I can show it to you super clearly so that there's just no room for, any doubt or anything like that. I'm literally just going to put the S&P directly on top. This is a messy chart. This is a messy chart, but you can kind of see how this played out here. The S&P 500 was dumping, so too was Bitcoin. The S&P kind of recovered with this blue line. It's such a terrible way to represent this. I need to see if I can paint this with, instead of line. No, I don't, because can I do it? Oh yeah, I can do candles. So candles kind of help us make more sense of this, but to be honest, I got the wrong chart on here. I need to do futures, because futures were the ones that were trading at this point. So bear with here, ES1 exclamation mark, and then go into the all tab and throw this onto the new price scale, and that is going to be a lot easier for us to look at. So thank you for bearing there with me, guys. Let me move this over to candles as well. And now we can really kind of get a sense of, what Bitcoin was doing and what the S&P 500 was doing. And just the fact that, when we were kind of, just hanging out over here for Bitcoin, so is the S&P 500. When the S&P kind of dropped, Bitcoin dropped a little bit before that. But then on this big dump here, it was all the S&P dropping, right? I mean, this was the S&P 500 dropping in its aftermarket trading. and Bitcoin just followed. So that's the first thing we got to keep in mind, is that yet again, this drop that we saw for Bitcoin, taking it down to 103, was not something that Bitcoin architected itself. It's something that the S&P 500 did, and Bitcoin just kind of followed. And then naturally, of course, yeah, there's a little bit of a dump, and the S&P is not fucking an over-leveraged shitcoin. So, you know, it just kind of drops in perhaps more quote-unquote reasonable ways. Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin drops in more unreasonable ways because Bitcoin does trade like a shitcoin, and it does have liquidity issues, and it does have an over-leverage issue a lot of the time as well. And so what it looks like what happened, essentially, and a lot of people have already figured this out, is that you know, we got that massive fucking leverage wipeout that, you know, again, I mean, depending on which exchange you're on, it took Bitcoin all the way down to even like 101 down here. But, you know, after that, because there was, you know, essentially an absence of leverage going long, more people just fucking went long. And, you know, the S&P had to dip again, and that triggered more liquidations. That triggered more of an extreme bit of price action here for Bitcoin. So, I mean, that's not surprising. We've seen that before. We're honestly at a situation now where we started to beg the question, well, are we in one of those phases now where Bitcoin's going to pull like one of those really scary, really dangerous, really sickening kind of price action moves where essentially everybody walks away with a fucking bruise and a bad, you know, experience here? Because that's pretty common too. Like, that does happen a lot in crypto as well. I don't think we've seen that necessarily for a long time. Probably the last time that we really saw some genuine fucking pain was probably like, you know, the 60 to 70k range. And yeah, I mean, we had entered this range in March of 2024. We only exited it in October of 2024. And that's a year ago now, you know? So, I mean, a year to trigger, you know, something terrible like this definitely lines up as far as timeframes go. I know you're not going to want to hear that. I don't want to say it myself, but the truth is the truth, isn't it? That's what you get on this channel, and tons of you guys have been recognizing that. So, huge shout out to those of you that are new to the channel. As you already know, you're just getting the same realistic, grounded analysis every single day, ladies and gents. I mean, the analysis might change, but the perspectives, the first principles that we operate from, more importantly, they stay always identical, because that's how we're able to produce consistently correct analysis in this market and just understand what we're seeing here. So that's really, really powerful. Definitely smash up the likes if you do enjoy this content and you do appreciate all that stuff we are dropping for you guys. But Bitcoin right here, like I said, it just all comes down to this 107, 108 level right here that we're just getting rejected off. If Bitcoin is able to recover above this level, and you know, right now, by the way, I do just want to take a quick look at the S&P. It is a Saturday, so you know, we're now looking at markets being closed for a little bit, but you know, there was a little bit of a recovery on that Friday candle there, and you know, clearly, you know, things are not as bad as they were, I guess, you know, at some of these lows. But at the same time, you know, Bitcoin still isn't moving up. So essentially, this is just a case of, well, is Bitcoin going to pretty much just catch up with the rest of traditional finance and get above this resistance level? And if it does, I think it could probably fly. You know, I think essentially, you know, we could be looking at another situation where we start targeting this high again, same as what we did over here. You know, if that does end up happening, then of course, you know, this level, we have a discussion about if this level is going to break, and you guys know my thoughts on that. I don't think that this level is particularly nasty for Bitcoin as far as this resistance goes. So, I mean, on a second attempt here, I think our chance of breaking it is quite high. And so, you know, basically what I'm just looking at is seeing if we do manage to get above this level. Now, if we do get above this level, let's say we get to like 111 or something like that, it'd be really nice to come back down, back test it, and then continue going back up. That just really clears the air, right? Because what happens is, let's say the price does come up to like 111, 112, it gets rejected, comes back down. This is essentially a time for the bears to prove themselves, right? For the bears to prove their dominance, because they've been trending Bitcoin down for quite some time now, and we have been progressively setting, you know, lower highs and lower lows in this market. So if we're going to continue that kind of trend here, then again, that's just a huge opportunity for those bears to also punch in a new lower low, take Bitcoin perhaps significantly further down from where it is right now, or just a little bit further down from where it is right now. And so essentially, if you do get that kind of back test here and then come back down, you know, the bears have that chance to prove themselves, but so do the bulls, right? Because the bulls can also step in and be like, actually, I'm bidding this level because I don't think we're necessarily going much lower. And that can trigger, you know, a big move up where essentially the bears are now out of the picture. And that's what happened on this move. I mean, that's how I felt about this. It definitely, I mean, look, resistance is resistance. I was still cautious at this level for that reason, but it definitely did look like there was quite a lot of strength going behind Bitcoin at that point. And it's clear because the bulls defended this level and then sent Bitcoin skyrocketing back toward 117K. So that's a really, really good sign. And so I definitely think that that's going to be a great opportunity for bulls to potentially prove themselves. Like I said, it all just boils down to this level here. Can we break above it or not? The fact that we're steady here is a really, really good sign. We could even get rejected, come back up, and I'd still be pretty happy with a potential chance of a breakout here. I just like the fact that Bitcoin is holding this market structure, and at the same time that Bitcoin money is now flowing out of Bitcoin and into altcoins where people are ready to speculate and take a little bit more risk, right? Here's Sol BTC, for example, still just kind of hanging out at this really, really important level. Here's Cardano BTC also. I mean, it did break its core market structure, but this kind of secondary market structure, which by the way is so dangerous, we are still holding it. So, look, this is turning into a bit of a rising channel here, which is super fucking bearish if it does end up playing out, because that is going to imply another massive drop down. So I think, if you're a bull, you've got really good reasons to be a bull as far as, S&P is recovering. There's still signs of optimism. There's still signs of confidence with Bitcoin's dominance. Bitcoin itself is just fluctuating at resistance. These are really, really good signs going for you. But if you're a bear, you've got really good signs going for you too. And I think that's why crypto is essentially just waiting to see what the S&P 500 ends up doing, because that's going to really color in what we could expect to see in this market. We are going to see pre-market open again in just over a day at the time of recording this, so we'll definitely be taking a look at that when it does open. We might be live or whatever. You guys already know the deal. We're live basically through all of the big kind of volatility events that you guys are going to want to see this channel. So of course, if you are subscribed, you're going to be able to catch that content when it does come out, which is obviously so important. As far as other altcoins, here's XRP. Again, just holding on, kind of like nothing's really going on in XRP's world, which is fantastic. XRP against Bitcoin, hanging on as well. Honestly, completely fine. Everything looks normal and healthy to me. I'm not worried about this stuff. It still honestly feels to me like we could have a little bit too much of a kind of bearish leaning in this market, especially coming out of retail. I think that's proven by things like the Fear and Greed Index. I haven't actually refreshed this in a couple of days, but if we do take a look at the reading here, yeah, 23, 22. I mean, it's very, very low levels here. I think, for sure a lot of this does basically boil down to, the trade war stuff going on with China and Trump. I don't have a whole lot of information on that, but I mean, it's just going to figure itself out however it figures itself out. I mean, there doesn't even seem to be much talk about it on the timeline right now. It's just a bunch of people shit posting about random stuff. So, you know what I mean? Like, so it just looks like one of those things we're just gonna have to wait to see how it kind of plays out, because like I said, I really do not believe that any of the price action we see for Bitcoin is unique to Bitcoin anymore. And because of that, I really think that we need to be, getting a solid kind of grasp on what's going on with traditional finance. What I do want to warn you about with traditional finance is that the S&P 500 here is in a pretty bearish pattern. I mean, look, it could totally just go sideways from here and do something a little bit like this, and then we're kind of fine. But it does look to me like it's forming a pattern, again, a little bit more like a rising channel, which could be breaking down, taking us down into a range like this at about 6470, 6500. And that's going to line up essentially with a lot of, a lot of red price action for crypto probably, if that does end up happening. So we're just going to have to watch to see how that plays out as well. There's a lot here to be monitoring, but I think the key thing is how do we do at this resistance level? If we are able to get above this resistance level, then we're back in the game by many senses here. But, if we're not able to, if we do get rejected, I don't really see how this low is going to hold. I think we are probably coming much deeper into the low hundreds, if not into the high 90s at least. And again, what would that do to Bitcoin's dominance? What would that do to altcoins? It would probably, hurt altcoins quite a bit. So honestly, we're just going to have to see how this continues to play out. I'm going to be monitoring this closely with you guys on this YouTube channel. If you guys have enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell. You've got beautiful exchanges linked down here below when you do start trading, when you do make your deposits and start trading using these links. You're going to get huge bonuses deposited into your account, which is absolutely sick. So check them out if you're not from a restricted region. And I think with that, yeah. Oh yeah, just definitely check out the Four Flies Gold Telegram channel too. We're giving you more free analysis here, exclusive videos that YouTube doesn't see. Same videos. I'm recording those videos. They're just not going on YouTube. They're exclusive to the Telegram channel. So check them out if you want to get more exclusive analysis around the clock from the team and I. And with that, ladies and gents, I think we're going to be wrapping it up there. So thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.